Hey everyone, it's the product experience. I'm Randy, and this week we have something really special for you. Just you. No one else. It's very exclusive. No, wait, that's not right at all. This week, Lily and I are bringing you our chat with Claire Bowden. She's the SVP of Global Product Design at Global Payments, and it's a chat that is for everyone. We sat down at the Mind the Product and Pendo Roadshow in London to talk about inclusivity and accessibility and why we still don't get it right way too much of the time.
Claire, welcome to the Product Experience podcast.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to meet you in person.
Same here, yes. Really lovely to meet you.
Usually I'm sat in my pajamas doing these interviews, but I'm actually, properly dressed today.
I generally have the top that works.
Yeah, exactly. Pajama bottoms.
Don't tell anyone.
And slippers. So before we get stuck into our topic today, it'd be great if you could give our listeners and watchers a quick intro into who you are and what you do.
All right, so I'm Claire Bowden. I'm an SVP for Product Experience for Global Payments. So the longer title is probably Product Ops and Experience. So my team looks after product operation, design operation, research operation, accessibility, and some design delivery as well. So I have quite a wide range of things. My team is across the world. So I have people in India, I have people in Europe, and I have people in the US as well. So that's that kind of the professional. And I started with the professional, but personally, I have a bit of an accent. I live in Dublin, in Ireland, but I'm French. I've left France in the first time I was 18 and I learned English in Australia. And then the second time was 2006. I haven't been back. Well, I've been back for holidays and families, but lived in the UK and Dublin.
Fantastic. And we were talking a little bit before we turned the cameras on, and you said your team has faced a couple of big challenges lately, different things than you'd come across before. What are the biggest things you're dealing with at the moment?
So we've had quite a few things. I'd say even if I start at a very early stage, I was the first designer at Global Payments. So the maturity in the organization was fairly low at the time. So that was one of the first challenge, which, you turn up into a room and go, hi, I'm the designer, or I'm the product designer. And everyone was like, you do pretty things, right? Not exactly. So that would have been one of the biggest challenge. And we're still at times fighting against that, right? Mm-hmm. Against that perception of beauty and not really the design thinking aspect. So that's one aspect, even with product management. So having product operation with me now actually makes it much better, much easier. It's also a very new function, so it's kind of changing the mindset and bringing people along new ways of doing product. Other challenges that I've had, I'm very resilient, so I tend to be given those type of things. Mm-hmm. Accessibility would have been another one, the digital accessibility aspect. So we know this has been on for a very long time in the world, right? But it doesn't mean that everyone actually think about it. And I think I got my heart broken realizing that I was designing and making product not for everyone and decided to fix it. So that's another big challenge in the organization to bring this along, because you'll tend to have people that go, okay, I understand the case, but what am I getting if I do accessibility? Well, you just get more people to use your product. And that's not always a strong business case financially in a way, right? So you have to make the empathy level.
And I think when we think of accessibility, sometimes we think of people who are blind or deaf, but accessibility is much bigger than that, isn't
it?
It's
a lot more.
I imagine with a global payments and a global audience, there's a lot to think about in terms of accessibility. So where did you kind of start when you knew that, or when you identified that this was an opportunity in an area where you could improve? Where did you start?
So a lot of the work has been around the awareness of what you're talking about. As soon as you talk about accessibility, people goes blind, wheelchair. Yeah, well, it's like, no, we are talking about much more than that. We're talking about 1 billion people in this planet that have an impairment of some sort. I generally so I'm French. My first language is French. I was 20 when I learned English. Sometimes you native speaker write to me or speak to me and I'm like, no, not getting it. And that's it's not a disability, but it's an impairment. If no one actually speaks properly and writes very simple sentences, I'm not going to get it. I had a test done to me at some stage. It wasn't in global payments, it was in another organization. I was given sort of test before being a particular role into that organization. And the test was in yards, in the metrics that I don't use, yard and gallons and all of this. And some of the math were in English. I'm French, I do math in, and it was not possible. I failed the test, just because I don't speak your language the way that you do. So that's the first one, bringing the awareness to people that it's just not just the blind and the wheelchair. It is, but there's also a situation. If you think about payments, if you carry a baby and you have to go and pay, you suddenly have only one hand. You're not disabled, you don't have a particular impairment, you're just carrying baby or shopping bags. So all of those moments, we have to think about them. The population is aging, so I wear glasses, that's my assistive technology. It's massive, it's very important to me. If I don't have that, I can't drive, I can't see myself, I'm really blind. I don't think really poor, but I can't write, I can't read. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to do. I'm a designer. How do I design without this on? So all of this awareness in the organization is really important. So I think that was the first step, building a business case on the side as well.
So why is this so hard now? We've been doing this for ages. It's as you said, the financial incentives are there. It's a massive part of the population have something that is officially recognized. And as you said, situationally, that's even bigger. You'd think by now that this would just be built into our infrastructure, that it's essentially accessibility as a service would be something that's, why is this still so hard?
You'd think so, yeah. Compliance, it's a compliance problem. So when you start talking about compliance in a business, they look the other way and just go, oh, another one of those that will not bring value. So you have to kind of show the value of what it is. And if we worry about delivering delightful experience, we're going to have to worry about accessibility as well and bringing our product to the wider audience. But that's the main thing is the business case. It's like financially, what's the benefit? And the way to do it, the partner that we use has it all right? We have what we call a shift left. So it's really, it starts with the designer. About 65% of defect in accessibility originate with us. So if we don't think about the colors ratio, if we don't think about building a prototype with the tab flow and with the speech to text, well, you can't expect developers and QA to build it and test it. So you have to build it from the get-go. And if you do that, it's a lot cheaper. So the business case is like, if you go forward and go, we need to test, and compliance is telling us to test, and we have those many defects, and that's it. Everyone's like, oh, this is going to cost millions. We don't want to do it. If you turn around to what I've been doing for the past 4 years, which is, okay, I'm going to start and I'm going to make designers build accessible product, and we're going to move to development and QA, and we're going to shift that. The shift is a lot cheaper, a lot longer, but eventually we get to delightful experience and not compliance and plaintiff attorney.
And so how do you build that into your workflow? Is it just something that automatically gets done now as part of, whenever a feature is being redesigned or changed or anything like that, there's just almost like a checkbox of like, have we considered the accessibility element of this?
All the way through. So you talk about checkbox, we have a checklist for designers to ensure that it's part of their build when they start, and we use Figma. When they use Figma, it's part of the build. They have a checklist of everything. So we train the designers, but it's all the way through. So in the past, when I was saying maturity in design, designers would have expected to give prototype. Now we have a prototype for obviously web, a prototype for mobile, all the different breakpoints and all of this, okay, so for the responsiveness. And then on top of that, you have to add the speech to text. So you have a tech writer that's coming, a UX writer that tells you how do you tab through this. You have for the keyboard, a tab flow. So it's a lot more work for the designers. We have to check the colors ratio, but we have a design system in the background. So we've accelerated a lot of that. So we have tools in Figma to help us go faster. And then we have components in libraries that are already coded accessible on the other side. So it accelerates also the efficiency of the devs. So all of this together makes it a lot more efficient and possible to have accessibility all the way through.
You mentioned earlier, like one of the examples of accessibility being in the copywriting and having copy that's really easily understood by a non-native speaker, for example. Quite a lot of design situations you might not necessarily have a UX copywriter that you can lean on. Are there any sort of best practices or ways to test your copy that enable you to check its level of accessibility and its level of kind of understoodness without having to try to find a non-native speaker?
The first step, I'd say, try to find someone that knows how to write, because I've learned so much since I've had tech writer and UX writer on my team. I didn't know that it was so complex in a way from the language perspective. My team is very, very diverse on all aspects of it. So from interview to the work we do, we have, for example, fearless feedback every Thursday. And this is where everyone gets in the room, someone presents, more than one person generally. And at that time, we actually feedback. And some of the feedback would be my team being very diverse, have all sorts of nationality, and going like, I'm not getting this message. I don't understand what that means, so I feel uncomfortable. So it's really bringing it to as many people as possible, because there is language, but there's also the cognitive and those elements, the neurodiversity, that sometimes people are just not comfortable, or language you use. We had a few days ago, we tend to do and say, hey, guys, well, guys is not inclusive. It shouldn't be. And then we had a whole discussion around, actually, is it not? It depends on the culture and the language and who learns English where, that we feel guys is male or is female or is both. So it was very, very interesting, but we can stay on words like this for a while, right?
My wife is Irish, and she likes to talk about when she's a dentist. When she first came to the UK, she had a patient, and she said, you're doing all right. You've only got a couple of cavities. And the patient said, oh, great, only 2. And she said, no, 5. Because an Irish couple can be up to about 5. And then I asked her, so how many people are in this couple, in this relationship? And she said, no, that's not what I meant at all.
That's exactly that. And language, like culture, is very, very important. And having a diverse team brings this, right? Bring those discussions and those elements like, no, that's not what I mean. It's a separate discussion, but there's a book by, she's called Erin Meyer. She's American, but she lives in France. She's written a book about culture map. It's fascinating for anyone who wants to read it. Fascinating. I learned that the French are very implicit in their language, in their way of talking, when the Americans are very explicit. You say what you mean what you say. So within my team, I got the feedback at some stage that sometimes they lack clarity. And I was like, what's wrong? I'm very clear. I'm not. I'm very clear for a French person. I'm not very clear for an American. I need to be a lot clearer in my communication. All of this comes into accessibility. All of this comes into the design.
This episode is brought to you by Pendo, the only all-in-one product experience platform.
Do you find yourself bouncing around multiple tools to uncover what's happening inside your product?
In one simple platform, Pendo makes it easy to both answer critical questions about how users engage with your product and take action.
First, Pendo is built around product analytics, enabling you to deeply understand user behavior so you can make strategic optimizations.
Next, Pendo lets you deploy in-app guides that lead users through the actions that matter most.
Then Pendo integrates user feedback so you can capture and analyze how people feel and what people want.
And a new thing in Pendo, session replays, a very cool way to experience your users' actual experiences.
There's a good reason over 10,000 companies use it today.
Visit pendo.io/podcast to create your free Pendo account today and try it yourself.
Want to take your product-led know-how a step further? Check out Pendo and Mind the Product's lineup of free certification courses led by product experts and designed to help you grow and advance in your career.
Learn more today at pendo.io/podcast. Well, speaking of things that can misinterpret things very easily, you said one of the other big challenges that you and your team were facing into was AI. And I'm wondering, does the use of AI impact your approach to accessibility at all?
So yes, it does. The first thing that I want to say about AI is I'm really putting the designer hat. I was actually just having this chat before with one of the guys that you'll interview later. Everything that we're looking at the moment when it comes to AI is based on old patterns. And it comes with accessibility as well. We know the patterns in the world today, so we want to layer AI on top of those patterns. As a designer, I'm like, we're getting this wrong, guys. This is not how it works. So the best example I generally use is when Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive came up with the iPhone, right? The iPhone coming out in the world, or the new vision thing that they have now, they have to create new patterns to use the technology. So we learn to zoom, we learn to swipe and do all of those elements, which sometimes drives me insane now because there's too many of them. But the double click on the vision, all of those elements, they are new patterns that we had to think about that became something natural for us as human beings to use. AI, for me, in every aspect, and a lot more into accessibility, I'll talk about that in a second, needs new patterns. We don't know what they are. So at the moment, the biggest challenge that I have is like a lot of people are coming with, well, the chat bots. And it's like, really? Like, do you think that's the only power of AI? I think we can do much better than that. I think AI should proactively know when to tell me how much money I'm going to get tomorrow. That's literally, as a merchant, that's what I want. I don't want to go to a software to go, how much money am I going to get tomorrow? I want you to tell me when is the right time for me to know that, you figure it out. That's the power of AI. It should be more than invisible. Good design is invisible. AI should be absolutely invisible and a delight to do. Oh, I got exactly the answer that I needed at that time. From an accessibility answer on the accessibility front, I think it will be tremendous help. There was an example not so long ago on the language where an AI can actually read the sign language and translate straight to the audience in pure language. That allows for communication. I don't understand sign language. I was actually looking at, should I learn this? It'd be great. But I don't know sign language, but having someone that signs in front of me and having my phone that tells me what that person says is absolutely amazing. But it breaks down communication.
And how are you upskilling your team in, I guess, both thinking more broadly about the possibilities of what AI can bring, but then also understanding what's available and out there now in terms of technologies, but I guess even those like underlying technologies that you're able to play with?
So I have a team of geeks. that's kind of, one of them is coming today. I have quite a good team of geeks that are constantly looking at what's out there in the world. And we do every week, like Last Week in Design. And Last Week in Design has what we've delivered, what the team has done, etc. And also article things that we've explored in the world and we want people to look at. So this, together with obviously conference and moments where people are going and debating, right? My entire team is remote. So COVID happened that way. We used to have a clutter of 2 offices. From the moment COVID happened, it just became totally virtual. So we kept all of the practice. So we meet every day in some shape or form anyway. So that's where we also bring on the Friday, we have our virtual hangouts, and it's just, it depends. We play games, we talk about very serious subjects, we have loads of clubs and things to do that sort of thing. So that's how we bring most of those conversations to the team.
Has the inclusion of AI, the possibility of designing with, designing for, designing around, has it changed the way that you hire? Are you hiring people, are you looking to hire people who have specific experience in using the technology, or are you still looking for more for attitude and other aptitude and say, I can teach them, they can pick this up along the way?
It's a really good question. So I don't think I've seen yet a change in the hiring. However, let me put it this way. 5 years ago, I had a few designers like, I'm not sure if I want to do this. I like UX research, or am I more into the interaction? I'm not sure. I'm like, look, let me be clear. If you want to do some coding, do it now because it's not going to last forever. And I'm really sorry for anyone that does development. If you want to do UX research, we still probably have a long way before actually AI takes all of it over. But I think the main point is the creative thinking. It's really the ability to look at different perspectives, having empathy, all of those elements, and using the tools. So officially in the business, we're not to use ChatGPT, OpenAI, we have our own tools, and we have a long partnership with Google, so we're using some of this, but it's still encouraged, right? Figma has AI built in, we have a lot of the tools, and it's like, start using it because this is not going to go away, and we have to learn to use and build with it and enhance our ability rather than, being down by it. So I'm a geek as well, I'm a nerd, and I'm an innovator. So I'm like trying new things all the time. I play with Galileo UI all the time and try to build UI and see what it does. Go back to Figma after and go, not there yet. Okay, still got some time before. But I think we're not far from the world where I can go, hey, here's my audience, here's the persona I'm thinking about, here's the kind of big case that I want to build, the requirements, the features, And by the way, here is my design system. Here is my Figma. It's built, right? There's an element there that's going to go. However, it still needs human to validate. As much as AI is going to be able to A/B test really quickly and know the pattern in the world, we still need to have the feeling that that's not going to go away.
I keep reading things around how AI is doing all of the fun, creative work so we can do more of the mundane admin jobs. Is there, you say there's always going to be like a human element of sort of checking the work that the AI is bringing, but do you think that there will still be room for that creative thinking? And like, how do we continue to make space for that?
Absolutely. I actually think it's the other way around. I think it enhances and it will do all the mundane. Like, ask any designer. Some designers are really detail orientated and love doing the prototype. That wasn't my case. I love the whole like who I am. How am I going to make this a good journey and very easy? But then this can be taken over by AI, no problem. I think the power and the mindset that we need to have is, how is this going to enhance me? How am I? We've all watched Marvel, right? I want to be that whatever Iron Man, right? Hey, how about this? Can you show me this? Some more, and just bringing it to me faster so that my brain can really think creatively and go further rather than the other way around. I think it's us first, but that's my view.
Claire, most of the people who listens to this podcast, I mean, I'm sure we've got plenty of designers listening as well, but we're mostly product-oriented people. What's one thing you wish product people did better in working with designers?
Working with designers.
Good answer.
The thing is that there's a little bit of, I think if anyone has watched that, what's his name, Brian, the Airbnb kind of CEO. Yeah. When he said in the Figma conference, like, hey, product managers out of the door, and all the designers like, yay, that's not what he meant. It's like, we have a very, very distinct work. And I would add product marketers. So if you put a product manager, a product designer, and a product marketer in the same room, working together, and technology, it's not a 3, it's a 4-legged stool. You have extremely powerful product at the end of it. Someone is going to look after the markets and how we're going to make money with this thing and the feature and the requirement and the true thing that needs to happen. Someone will be the voice and the creativity and the delightfulness of the experience. Someone's going to worry about how we're going to go to market with this and what is strategically the value proposition that we need to have, and someone's going to build it. So if you have all of those people in the room, it's amazing. Very often what I see is a product manager want to do most of it by themselves, and it's like, we're here to help. We want to be with you. We want to build it with you, not. So I constantly type of that conversation. I am not a service to product managers. I'm not consulting for you guys. I am a product function. I just look at things slightly differently.
One of my favorite things to say to product managers is like, everyone's a product manager. Yeah. You're just the only person who's not a designer or a developer as well.
Well, I used to have a talk a long time ago where we're all designers. If you think about this, any email, this podcast, anything you do has been designed. Someone has thought about the audience that we're going to talk to. We've thought about the microphone that you hold in your hand. We've thought about all of those elements have been thought about, right? You're a designer. We're all designers. The difference is we have the empathy and we bring the kind of the intent. We really, really want to do it towards someone, not just, I think it's the best thing to do. I'm a little bit of a neuroscience geek. This is the way our brain functions. There's no way around it. All I see is all there is. That's the, think fast, think slow or something. It's like, this is all I know. But if you only design by that, you're only going to do it for yourself. You're not going to do it for the person that actually needs to use it. For anyone that gets frustrated in this world when using a UI in any sense or form, or a service for that matter, go to Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris and try to walk from A to B, and you'll see how service design is somewhat challenging. It hasn't been intentionally designed. Someone was missing in the process somewhere, or they did a bad job. That's a different story.
Claire, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
The Product Experience hosts are me, Lily Smith, host by night and Chief Product Officer by day.
And me, Randy Silver, also host by night. And I spend my days working with product and leadership teams, helping their teams to do amazing work.
Luran Pratt is our producer, and Luke Smith is our editor.
And our theme music is from product community legend Arnie Kittler's band, POW. Thanks to them for letting us use their track.